Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press is for Friday, November 28th, 2025. And let's see, it puts a smile on people's faces. Neepawa Ministries launches the Kettle campaign by Casper Warehan. Bells, not spurs, have begun to jingle and jangle in Neepawa this week. On November 27th, the Neepawa Community Ministry Center, Salvation Army, officially began its annual Christmas Kettle campaign. The campaign is a major fundraiser for the Neepawa Community Ministry Center, NCMC, and is used to offset the cost of its Christmas hamper program, a major annual service. It helps people who are struggling this Christmas season in Neepawa and the surrounding area. People's generosity is definitely important this year, as of course economically there are quite a few people suffering, said Sandra Gunn, NCMC's Kettle campaign coordinator. So we really appreciate anybody contributing to these campaigns and the volunteers too. Everybody's kindness is going to help. Gunn added, though through the Christmas hamper programs, families and other clients get a gift certificate to a local business, and children 12 and under get toys. So there's lots of places that are doing toy collections too. It's beneficial. It puts a smile on people's faces because we do have families that are in dire need. That's the main thing. The kettles will be set up at various locations within Neepawa for several days each, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday until December 20th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the volunteers are needed for the Christmas Kettle campaign. The Kettle locations are the Neepawa Post Office, outdoors, your dollar store with more, outdoors, Home Hardware, the Neepawa branches of the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op grocery stores and gas bars, Fresh Mart, Safeway, Harris Pharmacy, and Giant Tiger. A kettle will also be set up at the Glorious Christmas Wish Sale on November 29th. It's volunteers that really make the program successful, Gunn emphasized, noting that volunteers are still being accepted. There's a few days that have already been filled in, but most of them we're looking for volunteers. As of November 24th, the empty slots are on December 4th to 6th, December 11th and 12th, and December 18th to 20th. Gunn stressed that any time someone is able to lend us volunteering with the campaign is greatly appreciated. The Kettle campaign has 2 different shifts, 1 hour for outdoor locations and 2 hours for indoor locations. Each day has a 1-hour shift and then 2-hour shifts indoors. So we're looking for 9 people per day. If it's a single person on the shift, people can work in pairs if they want to. They don't have to stand alone, said Gunn. We really appreciate anybody who wants to volunteer. Anybody wishing to lend their time can apply to become a volunteer with the NCMC by going to https://salvationarmy.ca/kettle-application/34 KBR Ringer NEEP. Existing volunteers can sign into the Salvation Army portal and schedule their volunteer shifts by going to https://portal.salvationarmy.ca/. Oh my goodness. And just pictured here, by the time the paper is out, the Neepawa Community Ministry Center will have begun its 2025 Kettle campaign. There's a picture of the kettle there. And we're moving on. We're going to do the safest thing. Construction of planned Carberry Overpass to begin in 2027 by Owen Devereaux. For the past 2 years, residents of Carberry and North Cyprus Langford have been calling for a highway overpass, and for 2 years the government has said that it wasn't an option. But now the province has changed course and confirmed that the overpass is not just an option for the community, but its future. After referencing the project in its throne speech earlier in the week, the NDP government made their official announcement in Carberry on Thursday, November 20th. Premier Wab Kinew and Transportation and Infrastructure Minister Lisa Naylor informed residents that the overpass will be built at the intersection of Highway 5 and the Trans-Canada Highway. The overpass will replace the current intersection of Highways 1 and 5, which consists of stop signs at the north and south entrances and a yield sign at the meridian. The creation of the overpass is an effort to improve safety at an intersection where 17 people died in a bus crash in 2023. A bus carrying seniors crossed through the intersection in June of that year and collided with a semi-trailer. This was Manitoba's deadliest ever traffic accident. After the tragedy, some areas' residents, as well as local councils, called for an overpass at the intersection, but the government initially said it wasn't an option. But Premier Kinew said that's changed. "We always said from the start, we're going to do the safest thing here," said Kinew. "The people of Carberry spoke clearly and we adjusted course. With renewed design work and real community input, we are moving toward a safe solution. An overpass will protect lives and reflects our belief that every Manitoban deserves to feel safe on our roads." Local response overwhelmingly positive. The announcement from the province was celebrated by locals who have been extremely vocal about their opposition to the government's initial proposal known as an R-cut design. The R-cut required drivers to change lanes and make a U-turn in order to cross the highway. Carberry and area residents pushed back at the initial choice through rallies, a petition, and vocal feedback at open houses. Deborah Steen, who along with Jordan Dixon helped lead the local pushback to the plan earlier this year, Steen told the Banner and Press that she is thrilled to see the province is finally listening to their concerns and is changing course. "We're extremely happy, and I'm extremely happy. Initially surprised, but thankful that they have listened to what we had to say and are taking action," stated Steen. Local government officials are pleased with the overpass outcome. As well, Carberry Mayor Ray Muirhead said this is what they had hoped for. "On behalf of myself, our council, and the members of the community, we are thrilled the Manitoba government came through with this announcement of an overpass," said Muirhead. "Our emphasis has always been on safety, and we must never forget the lives lost at that intersection." The Banner and Press Reeve spoke with Ray Drayson. Reeve for the Banner and Press spoke with Ray Drayson, Reeve for the rural municipality of North Cyprus Langford. He said the municipality is very supportive of what the government's decided to do there. "The people of Carberry and the municipality stepped up and spoke their two bits, and they were heard on this issue. We, as a council, did the same throughout this entire process. We went to Winnipeg, talked about what options would work and what wouldn't work," Grayson explained. "This is a positive step forward, and one will go a long way towards rebuilding relationships and trust. Our residents and visitors deserve safe and reliable infrastructure, and today's announcement shows that these concerns have been heard." In regard to the construction of the overpass, Premier Kinew noted that the design will be standardized where possible to replicate at other locations in the future. As for the timeline and cost, Kinew estimates the project at roughly $100 million and will roll out over in stages. Work in the 2025-26 fiscal year will focus on confirming the concept design, followed by engineering and acquiring the land through 26-27. Construction will begin in 2027 and run for about 2.5 years. If that schedule holds, the overpass project would open in late 2029 or early 2030. One local resident asked a question related on the responsibility of the federal government to assist improvements, since it is the Trans-Canada Highway. Premier Kinew replied that no federal dollars are committed yet, and there is no guarantee any will be in the future, as roadways are typically understood to fall under provincial jurisdiction. Canoe added, however, that Manitoba plans to press the case, referencing recent talks with the Prime Minister, and argues that Highway 1 is a national economic corridor and that merits federal participation. Residents also asked about construction impacts. Transportation and Infrastructure Minister Naylor stated those details remain to be designed, but cautious that the short-term pain for the long-term gain is typical for a build of this scale. And pictured is Premier Wab Canoe as he shares details on the new overpass project being planned for the Trans-Canada Highway just north of Carberry. And we move on to Right in the Center by Ken Waddell. Handcuffed by tradition and vested interests. I am launching this week's column with the words of U.S. Senator Marjorie Taylor Greene. She announced last week that she was resigning from the U.S. Senate, and as soon as she did so, she denied she was planning to launch a bid for the office of President of the United States. Whether she changes her mind or not, her statement and its inherent logic makes a lot of sense. Read through her words, and after that I will write what I believe, that Greene is right about the U.S. presidential role, but unfortunately, her words resonate with a lot of other levels of politics. Greene said, "Running for president requires traveling all over the country, begging for donations all day, every day to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, arguing political talking points every day to the point of exhaustion, destroying your health and having no personal life in order to attempt to get enough votes to become president, all to go to work into a system that refuses to fix any of America's problems. The fact that I'd have to go through all that but would be totally blocked from truly fixing anything is exactly why I would never do it." Greene said she is not motivated by power and titles, while arguing that the political industrial complex has destroyed our country and will never allow someone like me or you to rise to power and actually solve the crises that plague all of us. I have been involved in all levels of politics for more than 40 years. I have run for office, held office, and observed dozens of politicians, from school board members to municipal councillors, MLAs, MPs, premiers, and prime ministers. All those years of observation, participating, and reporting have led me to believe that Greene is somewhat correct. Regardless of how you try, how much you strive, how much you feel moved to serve and establish new solutions to challenges, it's very difficult to bring about significant change. Big changes, which are sometimes needed, are especially difficult to bring into reality. Once a person is in office, they soon found out that they are handcuffed by tradition and vested interests. Traditional systems are entrenched, and most people and most organizations don't like change. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes laziness, and sometimes it's simply stubbornly not wanting to do things differently. But changes are needed, as Greene says, to actually solve the crises that plague all of us. We are all plagued with the need to change, all the while keeping the things that work in place so that chaos doesn't destroy us. It's a finely tuned skill to figure out what needs to be held dearly and what needs to change. While Marjorie Taylor Greene is in a somewhat forced transition time in her life, she will, in all likelihood, find a few things to do. So will most of us, and that's what keeps us going. We keep fine-tuning our daily routine so that we can get ahead. That is a truth that should never change, regardless of how old we are. For all of us, and especially those in elected office, it's important to examine every decision and decide if there's a better way. My response is a resounding yes. There's always a better way to do things, to get through our day and have an effect on our lives and the lives of those around us. Good enough is not good enough. Excellence should always be the goal. And as always, there's a disclaimer. The views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the newspaper staff. And we move on to Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. CBC and me. The go-to station for road trips has been CBC for decades. There are times when I listen to the talking one. The other times the classical music is the only sound, other than my breathing, filling the space around me. Classical music has always been one of my favorite genres. Country coming close to being my least fave was the deep sounds of Beethoven, Chopin, Wagner, Haydn, and Vivaldi, and then there's Bach and Mozart. The list goes on. With those sounds, my mind refreshes and wanders. There are some composers that cause me to simply follow, and that's refreshing. Some trigger deep core memories, and that allows me to wander. It was surprising that one of the movements from a Bach symphony took me way back to a long-distance drive with one of my sons. Mark William was an observer of humans and human nature. He was an excellent mimic. At a stoplight, he observed another driver across from us picking their nose. Going for the gold, he exclaimed. Remember, he was young at the time, and human functions can be entertaining and hilarious. Mark William continued, stoplight activity, watch for it, and he was right. Then he continued on topic. His grandfather was a master nose picker and an open pit miner. Remember, he was young at the time. Those memories brought a smile and the opportunity to reflect on his humor and wit, with a bit of mimicry for added laughter. There are a number of years when I took piano lessons for my own enjoyment. The lesson excerpts from classical music scores had me practicing with delight and diligence, some of the simpler fingering still there. One of my aunts is in her early 90s, and music is one of her great gifts. When my sister and I visited her this summer, she is still playing and practicing a classical piece. The goal is to commit it to memory and have her performance critiqued by a professor of music from the university. May it be so. May her love of music continue to bring her comfort and peace. She is a gifted musician, playing by ear or reading complicated scores. I asked her to play I Know Who I Have Believed, one of the songs I have chosen for my graduation service. She asked me to hum the first line, and so I did, in a pitch I'm most comfortable with, and she, with just a moment's reflection, executed it perfectly. With a smile, she turned to me and said she had never played it in that key before. A wonderful memory. This summer, I was traveling to Gimli to meet my sister and her family. The CBC regular radio was my companion. It turns out that my sister had listened to the same station on her drive up, for a slightly different reason. Her card radio had locked in CBC, and she had no choice. It does show it had been listened to before. The day we got to discuss the talk show, hosts, and guests that we had both heard, CBC and me. And Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine, saying goodbye. I have had to make many difficult decisions in my life, but the one I share with you today is by far the most difficult. For over 25 years, Faithfully Yours has appeared in this spot, first in the Neepawa Banner and now in the Banner and Press. What began as a bi-weekly 400-word comment soon became a 600-word weekly column. Many of you pick up the paper each week and instantly look to these pages to see what Ken Waddell and Rita Friesen and I have submitted. We are different people and we deal with different topics, but we care deeply about each other, about this community, and about sharing local news in a format and with content that our readers can trust. But we are all getting older, and for each of us, the time will come when we will have to say goodbye. My time has come. This will mean the final time Faithfully Yours will appear in the Banner and Press. It is time for me to say goodbye. I am sure you're all wondering why I've made this decision and why now. Well, the answer is simple. I will celebrate my 75th birthday next July. I know, to many of you, 75 isn't old, but hear me out. My life has been a life of service to God, to my employers, and to those I love. Practicing good self-care, see last week's column, has never been as high on my priority list as it ought to be now. Now my body is telling me that I need to slow down, and I need to listen to what my body is saying. I have suffered total physical and emotional burnout twice in my life. I do not want to go through that again. I have promised my wife, a 20-year stroke survivor, that I will do all within my power to ensure that she will never have to fear that one day due to my lack of self-care. Her primary caregiver will need more care than she does. I spend much of my time creating content, writing sermons, writing prayers, writing orders of service, writing columns, writing reports, and preparing slideshows for the sermon portion of Sunday services. The work is enjoyable and rewarding, but is also emotionally draining, and as I get older, I find that recovery from a particularly draining day takes much longer than it used to. So I am listening to what my body is telling me and slowing down before it takes over and forces me to do so. This is the first of several steps I will be taking over the next few months. Before I sign off, I want to thank Ken Waddell and the staff of the Banner and Press for the incredible joy I have found in preparing and submitting these columns. Your trust, guidance, and encouragement have been gifts for which I will be eternally grateful. I wish you well as you continue sharing local news with this community. Finally, thanks to you, my readers, I am greatly humbled whenever I meet someone new who tells me how helpful something I wrote has been. I will miss you all. My Sunday worship leadership is in Knox Church, Neepawa, and the McCurry United will continue for now, and I will gladly support and encourage those who are working diligently to help build healthy lives with healthy relationships in healthy homes, healthy communities, healthy country, and a healthy word. Thank you for this incredible privilege. May God bless you all. And there's a new cartoon, we might call it, the Universal Farming Problem. And it shows an arrogant government overreach with a gun and a WEF WHO agenda with a gun pointing down to ostriches, the Canadian public shown as ostriches with their heads in the ground. And the editor's note, the Neepawa Banner Press is publishing the first newspaper political cartoon by MIGIZI. Not everyone may be acquainted with this week's topic, but it decries the cull slaughter of 300 ostriches on a farm in British Columbia. That cull has been described as a huge overreach of authority by the federal government. By Ken Waddell, editor. And letters. Reason to be proud of our local curling rink. Congratulations to the Curling Club on its efforts to continually maintain and upgrade one of the best curling facilities in Manitoba. The new look waiting room is more open and functional. I understand there are new rocks with inserts on 2 sheets. They replace the old rocks on those sheets, which could no longer be maintained. It is also great to see the continued support of the business community through the advertising sign program. There are other enhancements as well. It's worth the time to visit the rink and see it firsthand. Like most curling rinks, it just needs more curlers. From Weldon Newton of Manitoba. And out of Helen's kitchen, today she deals with pulses. Pulses, which include beans, peas, and lentils, have a rich history of nourishing cultures all over the world. In the 8th century BC, they were mentioned in Homer's ancient Greek poem, the Iliad. In many cultures, pulses were considered a staple food, particularly among the poor and working class, due to their affordability and nutritional value. In Costa Rica, gallo pinto is a dish of fried black beans and rice with spices. India has dal, which is slow-cooked stew of split peas, beans, and spices. Israel is known for its falafel, which is a deep-fried ball of smashed chickpeas, faba beans, and spices. And in Finland, hernekeitto soup is made with ham and green peas. Pulses played an important role in early Canada as well. The early French settlers introduced a hearty pea soup, and baked beans were considered a staple for lumberjacks, cowboys, and farmers. The United Nations recognized the importance of pulses, declaring 2016 as the International Year of Pulses. One of the most significant benefits of pulses is their high protein content, as well as fiber, complex carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals, making them an excellent source of energy and nutrition. They are an important ingredient in vegetarian and vegan diets. So today, she offered 2 recipes, beanie lasagna and raisin lentil muffles. And we move on. Local artist Kennedy Baker helps raise nearly $2,000 for Hockey Fights Cancer. Local fans attending the November 22nd Manitoba Moose game may have noticed that former local resident Kennedy Baker's vibrant, one-of-a-kind artwork took center stage at the Manitoba Moose Hockey Fights Cancer game. Baker, who is a True North employee and cancer survivor, created and donated several unique works which were individually autographed by Moose players that were featured in a charity auction. The pieces drew a flurry of bidding, which culminated in a last-second scramble that saw a goalie stick sell for $600 with just 4 seconds left on the clock. By the end of the night, every one of Baker's creations had sold, raising nearly $2,000 in support of Hockey Fights Cancer and Camp Quality Manitoba. Locally, Baker is a former youth art instructor at Arts Forward and has created the hockey stick bench at the Yellowhead Community Rec Center, as well as other artwork within our community. Good work, Kennedy. And a note from looking back in history, William Hamilton. The November 9th, 1950 looking back entry on William James Hamilton in the November 7th edition perhaps had some scratching their heads, understandably so, as his birth date was stated as 1890, a typo in the original archives. As William Hamilton was 90 at the time of his passing on October 26, 1950, we can surmise that the 1890 should have actually been 1860. With how printing worked back in the days, it's quite possible that a 6 was put in place upside down. Whoops! With this correction in mind, the timeline is 1860, William Hamilton was born. 1879, he moved to Manitoba. 1885, his service in the Riel Rebellion. And we move on. Strengthening community through education. Neepawa Settlement Services and Assiniboine College collaboration by Elsie Pineda, Neepawa Settlement Services. A collaboration between Neepawa Settlement Services and the Assiniboine Community College is opening new doors for newcomers and residents alike in the Neepawa, Minnedosa, Gladstone, Plumas, and area, reinforcing the shared commitment to education, inclusion, and community development. The partnership aims to support newcomers by providing accessible educational opportunities and career development resources. With Neepawa's growing immigrant population, this initiative reflects the town's dedication to fostering a welcoming, empowered, and skilled community. Assiniboine College, known for its practical hands-on programs, is working with Neepawa Settlement Services to offer information sessions that address the unique needs of newcomers and new Canadians. These collaborations mean more than just education, said Elsie Pineda, Executive Director of Neepawa Settlement Services. It's about giving people the tools to succeed and feel at home in Neepawa. By leveraging each organization's strengths, community outreach and support from Neepawa Settlement Services, and academic excellence from Assiniboine College, this joint initiative is making a tangible difference. As this collaboration continues to grow, it represents a powerful example of how partnerships between educational institutions and community organizations can drive real change, creating opportunities, enhancing lives, and nurturing a more inclusive future for everyone. And Christmas is coming, I think, because Super Saturday to jumpstart the holidays in Neepawa by Casper Warehan. December is right around the corner and communities in the area are getting into the festive spirit. Neepawa is no exception to this, kicking off a holiday season with a Super Saturday this weekend on November 29th. Super Saturday officially unites many pre-existing events held in Neepawa on the last Saturday of November under one banner. The day's festivities begin with the return of a Christmas tradition spanning over 30 years in this community, the glorious Christmas Wish Sale. The sale is being held at the Yellowhead Hall starting at 10 a.m. This year's sale is bigger than ever with more than 50 vendors and of course photos with Santa. We're expecting close to 1,000 people through the doors, Cicely enthused, noting that the sale has truly become a cornerstone event in Westman. It's one of the most recognized craft sales in the region, and the band shows just how beloved it has become. The growth of the sale reflects not only the strength of our local artisans and businesses, but also the spirit of Neepawa itself, welcoming, creative, and community-focused. Cicely added, the Wish Sale's longevity speaks to the incredible support of our community and the dedication of the organizers who built such a strong foundation. I was fortunate to step into an event that was already extremely well run, and my role has simply been to continue that upward trajectory. Showcasing local, the 2025 Wish Sale comes with an added twist, incorporating a Super Saturday coupon book developed in partnership with several local businesses and organizations. The books will be handed out at the Wish Sale with attendees' admission fee and includes a variety of boons that are valid throughout the day. Over the past few years, we noticed how many community events were happening alongside the glorious Christmas Wish Sale. We had been promoting them and encouraging visitors to explore everything Neepawa had to offer. A few local business owners and I started brainstorming ways to build on that momentum, and that's how the idea of the Super Saturday coupon came about, said Cicely. Cicely added, the goal was simply to kick off the Christmas shopping season by encouraging people to shop locally instead of turning to Amazon or traveling to Winnipeg or Brandon. Neepawa has so many unique businesses, and we wanted to highlight them with one-day-only deals that would draw people through their doors. Filling out the remainder of Super Saturday are a free movie at the Roxy Theatre at 2 p.m., the Parade of Lights at 6 p.m., free hot chocolate in the Gillen Small Dream Ride Park, courtesy of Hidden Hollow and the Kin Club, available during the parade. Photo opportunities with Jody Baker Photography at the Dream Ride Park side, the hometown Neepawa snow globe, the globe with crafted by Katie Martin, Megan Peters, and the Community Youth Art Club, and installed by Neepawa's Men's Shed. Providing a final comment, Cicely stated, "We were fortunate to receive from the Ground Up grant to support community art projects like this one, and we're really looking forward to seeing what comes next. It's always inspiring to see how creative ideas can grow when community gets behind them." And honor Christmas in your heart, a dramatic reading of A Christmas Carol planned for Neepawa by Owen Devereaux. The spirit of Christmas is being brought to Neepawa with the performance of a classic holiday tale. A dramatic reading of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol has been scheduled for Sunday, December 7th at the Knox Church at 2 p.m. The day will feature the reading of selected works from the novella by 10 individuals, as well as the singing of carols from a small choir. The performance will be between 60 to 90 minutes and should put everyone in the proper mood to experience the magic of the holidays. It's an introduction to a new theatre group. The performance is being presented by the Beautiful Plains Community Theatre, a relatively new local group who are hoping to stage a full-scale musical in Neepawa in 2026. This abridged presentation of Dickens is their way of introducing themselves to the community, as well as serving as a fundraiser for the spring musical. The reading of A Christmas Carol does feature free admission, though if attendees are able to donate any amount to support the event, the money will go directly into the budgeting of the planned musical. Everyone is welcome to participate. Blair Chapman and Don Walmsley have taken the lead on this performance, serving as co-producers. On top of that, Walmsley has also edited Dickens' work down into a more compact but still affected version of the story. The structure will see the dramatic reading interspersed with singing of carols. Walmsley added that the songs that have been selected are well-known holiday favorites to encourage the audience to sing along. The choir would probably lead, but there should be occasions where the audience can be engaged. There will be familiar carols that the people can recognize, and we hope they'll be in the holiday spirit and more than welcome to sing along. As for the dramatic readings, if anyone is interested in being part of the festivities, they may contact Don Walmsley at 204-476-0165 to learn more. Previous acting experience or strong ability to memorize a lot of text is not needed to be a part of the fun. Since this is a dramatic reading of the work, the words of Dickens will be on the page right in front of you at the presenter. All you need is a clear reading voice and a willingness to have some fun. The hope is that 10 people will volunteer to read as one of the characters, and another 15 to 20 people may be able to participate as part of the choir. In terms of a time commitment, Chapman said that they are going to take this as easy as possible for everyone involved. There will likely be just 2 get-togethers to go over the text, stage the movement of the characters to and from the microphone, and a costume fitting. Chapman added that the entire performance is really just about having fun and getting everyone in the Christmas spirit. Dickens kind of invented Christmas, at least the way we celebrate it. Dickens was very much part of that, so if you like the traditional sort of Christmas feeling between the carols and the story of Scrooge, this might be something you enjoy. Once again, if anyone is interested in being part of the dramatic reading, they can contact Don Walmsley at 204-476-0165. As for the Beautiful Plains Community Theatre, anyone wishing to learn more can call Blair Chapman at 204-841-4579 to find out or volunteer for the spring musical. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol will be in Neepawa on Sunday, December 7th at the Knox Church. Start time is 2 p.m. MP Mazur opposes Carney's credit card budget. Riding Mountain Member of Parliament Dan Mazur is featured. Dan Mazur believes Canadians are getting stuck with a huge bill from Mark Carney's government just in time for Christmas. Our local Member of Parliament, who recently voted against Prime Minister's first federal budget, has been critical of the massive deficit it is creating. In a press release sent to the Banner and Press, Mazur shared his concerns on the fact that the document includes a $78 billion deficit and increased federal spending by $90 billion this year. Mark Carney campaigned on fiscal restraint and responsibility, then delivered the largest deficit outside the pandemic, said Mazur. Canadians were misled during the last election, and now they're stuck paying the bill. On November 17th, the Liberal government survived a confidence vote, passing the budget by a razor-thin margin of 170 to 168. While many people may be relieved that they're not going back to the polls so quickly, there is still concern over the spending that has been approved. Mazur notes that Carney's budget will produce a higher deficit than former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Prime Minister has stated that the budget was a generational investment, but Mazur disagrees, adding it is instead a credit card budget with a generational burden on future generations. New projections from the federal government now estimate the total debt in Canada will reach $1.35 trillion, with debt servicing costs rising to $55.6 billion next year. Mazur noted that amount exceeds the Canada Health Transfer and revenue collected from the GST. When interest expenses on the debt alone cost more than the federal government spends on provincial health care transfers, Canadians have a right to be concerned. Mazur said the only thing this budget will do is increase inflation, increase interest costs, and eventually increase taxes. Mazur also shared that with affordability challenges across the country, he believes that federal spending should focus on lowering costs and improving economic productivity. Canadians are watching their grocery bills and monthly expenses rise, stated Mazur. This budget adds tens of billions in new spending, but fails to deliver relief for families who are struggling with higher costs. Mazur is calling for additional measures, including tax cuts on manufacturing and food production. And your help is actually hurting us here. Err on the side of caution when it comes to recycling, by Owen Devereaux. A message for all Neepawa residents when it comes to recycling. Sometimes the best way for you to help is to not help at all. Despite the best efforts of some in the community, contaminated recycling continues to be a concern in Neepawa. At the latest town council meeting on Tuesday, November 18th, Chief Administrative Officer Colleen Sinchishin shared a correspondence from the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. The letters noted that the town would be receiving $12,196.94 from the government as part of the Waste Reduction and Recycling Support Program. That allotment of money is for the period between January 1st and June 30th, 2025. In 2024, Neepawa received 72,528, representing 223 tons of recycling materials. While being paid to recycle is nice, Councillor Gerald Jard did add that the amount of contaminated recycling is making its way into Neepawa's system is still worrisome. Make sure you put all recyclable materials in there. Otherwise, it ends up in the dump. It is the quality of recycling that matters, stated Gerard. Sinchishin elaborated on the councillor's point, sharing that they do get a lot of rejections at Evergreen. There might be 75% of people doing exactly how they should. If though the load that goes to Evergreen, someone has tossed, as an example, a can of corn that they haven't cleaned out or styrofoam that is not recyclable, they will reject the entire load, said Sinchishin. So if you don't want to recycle properly, just please place it in the garbage bins because it's costing us money. When recycling sent to Evergreen is found to be contaminated, it results in the entire truckload being rejected, and Neepawa is then charged with a per tonnage fee. This has been an ongoing problem for Neepawa for almost 5 years. The types of items that cannot be recycled and would be considered contamination according to provincial regulations are: don't recycle straws, don't recycle coffee pods, don't recycle coffee cups and lids, for example, Tim Hortons and McDonald's, don't recycle styrofoam, don't recycle clothing and textiles, don't recycle aluminum foil and plates, and don't recycle plastic pouches and laminates, for example, chip bags. If you are in any way unsure if an item is recyclable, simply put it in the regular garbage. And the RCMP report, Beware of Charity and Donation Scam, by Sergeant David Taggart. In the last month, the Spruce Plains RCMP had 288 occurrences. The occurrences we investigated included assaults, break-and-enters, thefts, vandalism, frauds, disturbances, and other provincial statutes. There was a lot of traffic-related occurrences this month, and we laid 100 Highway Traffic Act tickets and charged one male with impaired driving. We had 2 counterfeit currency investigations where fake $100 bills were used for payment. On one investigation, we have 2 men charged and warrants for arrest have been issued for them. They currently are in custody for similar offenses in other provinces. On November 7th, the Spruce Plains RCMP received a call from a 34-year-old woman reporting she was in a taxi on Highway 16 and there was someone on top of the taxi. The police located the taxi and did a traffic stop. There was no one on top of the taxi. The woman was found to be on a court order not to use the services of the taxi company from previous charges. The woman was charged with failing to comply with her court order, fraudulently obtaining transportation, and public mischief by misleading police in an investigation. The woman was remanded in custody to Brandon. Charity and donation scam. A scammer contacts you to ask for a donation to a charity, association, or religious cause. The scammer uses high-pressure tactics to get you to donate immediately. The charity may not exist, or the scammer may not actually be associated with it. To avoid charity scams, ask for information in writing before making a donation. You can also check that the charity is registered with the Canada Revenue Agency at 1-800-267-2384. If you would like to donate to a disaster relief campaign, we recommend you visit the Red Cross. And we'll come back to that later. Oh, and we're on to sports. Titans defeat Monarchs and fall to Pistons. Several recent games for Neepawa Titans seem to be a perfect example of the season so far for the team. After being shut out 2-0 by the Portage Terriers, the team bounced back against a scrappy Winnipeg Monarchs squad on Friday, November 21st, winning 5-3. Talon Wallace, pictured above, scored a pair of goals and added an assist. The Titans followed that up with a strong outing of their own in Steinbach against the Pistons on Sunday, November 23rd. Despite Neepawa putting in a scrappy effort, the club was still blanked 2-0. These games are an example of the team playing extremely well against the MJHL's top-tier club, but just being unable at this time to break through to the upper echelon. Next for Neepawa is a home game versus the Winnipeg Blues, 8-9-2-0, at the Yellowhead Centre on Friday, November 28th. Start time is 7:30 p.m. And the Neepawa Farmers split weekend games by Owen Devereux. It was a hectic weekend for the Neepawa Farmers with a pair of games on the schedule for the Tiger Hills Hockey League, THHL. The first of these was a Saturday night showdown with Ed McGregor against the Wild. Kyle McDonald secured the win for Neepawa, scoring the game winner in overtime for a 3-2 victory. Bert Lewandowski and Cohen Kalbaki scored the other goal for Neepawa, while Braden Klippenstein notched both tallies for McGregor. Brad Ronson collected the win in goal for the Farmers, facing 25 shots on the night. Neepawa followed up its road win at hosting the Rivers Jets on Sunday, November 23rd at the Yellowhead Centre. The Jets came into town at the best team in all of Tiger Hills with a perfect 6-0-0 record to start the year, meaning this would be a difficult challenge for the Farmers. While Neepawa stayed competitive with Rivers for the majority of the game, a late period goal in the power play helped the Jets to pick up the win. Riley Bowles scored with the man advantage in just over 6 minutes remaining in regulation. Luke DeCorby added an empty netter with just 6 seconds left to make the final score 4-2 for the Rivers Jets. Cohen Kalbaki and Garrett Rempel scored for Neepawa. These waking results give the Neepawa Farmers a 4-2-0 record on the season and have them in 6th place in the overall league standings. Next up for the Farmers will be a home game versus the Melita Bison, 3-3-0-6 points, on Sunday, November 30th. Start time at the Yellowhead Centre is set for 6:30 p.m. Oh, now we get to go back to the front page. NACI Tigers serve up intensive action as hosts of a volleyball provincial. The Neepawa Tigers were the host of this year's MHSAA Junior Varsity Boys Provincial Volleyball Championship. Schools came from across the province to Neepawa for a shot at the title. Pictured above is the Neepawa Tiger JV team in action. More photos can be found on 14, which is where we are now. NACI hosts Junior Varsity Volleyball Provincials. There's some more pictures here that aren't quite as clear. The MHSA JV Volleyball Provincials were held in Neepawa between November 20th and 22nd. The host club, the Neepawa Tigers, were a perfect 3-0 in round-robin portion of the event. The event was bested, however, in the quarterfinals. Nonetheless, the entirety of the weekend should be seen as a great success for the host team and the community. The Neepawa Tigers served as the host club for the 2025 Provincial AAA Junior Varsity Boys Volleyball Championship. In total, 12 teams from across Manitoba assembled in the land of plenty to compete. For NACI, their first challenge came against the Elmwood Giants. For this round-robin game, Neepawa bested Elmwood to 2 straight sets, 25-18 and 25-20. Nick Hawken was named the player of the game for the Tigers. The second game of the tournament for the Tigers was versus the John Taylor Pipers. This was another straight sets win for the hosts, as Neepawa claimed a 28-26, 25-19 decision. Jaden Miramara was a selected player of the game for NACI. The third and final match of the round robin for Neepawa was against Neelan Spartans. This clan ended up having to go 3 sets, which the Tigers outlasting Neelan and winning 26-24, 18-25, and 18-16. Aaron Dick was awarded the player of the game. The results had the Tigers a perfect 3-0 heading into playoffs. But for the quarterfinals, Neepawa was paired against Leo Remillard Renards. This would be where Neepawa's weekend ended, as Leo Remillard would prevail 24-26, 25-19, 15-5. As for the finals, it was the Steinbach Christian Flames facing the Springfield Sabres. It would ultimately be Springfield who would win the tournament 25-17, 15-25, 15-12. Colton Senkow of Springfield was named the tournament MVP. Congratulations to Springfield, as well as all the other teams for competing this past weekend. Congrats as well to the NACI Tigers players, coaches, and volunteers who made the hosting of the Provincial as successful as it was. And congrats on your Highland exams by Crystal Scott from the Expressive Dance Studio. Medal tests for Highland dancers were held Friday, November 14th at Expressive Dance with Crystal Studio in Minnedosa. Scottish Dance Teachers Alliance, SDTA, examiner Rebecca McKinnon traveled out from Edmonton to test the dancers. In total, there were 72 exams for 22 of Crystal Scott's Highland dancers. Some of the exams include 4 dances as well as demonstrating technique. Many dancers completed 1 up to 5 exams each. There were Highland dance exams, Highland Theory, Scottish Nationals, Sailor's Hornpipe, and choreographies. The marking system is as follows. Dance stars up to preliminary receive a pass, pre-bronze up to award, 6 receive pass, pass plus, commended, commended plus, and highly commended. Several dancers received commended plus for their hard work. Everyone was successful with their exams, and they'll receive certificates and medals at a later date. Crystal is so proud of her dancers as they continue to set goals and strive to keep improving. Good for them. If anybody's interested, the Rotary online auction from December 5th to 11th, and there's a number of items already listed here in the paper, but you can go online to register to bid on items. Go to www.district550.charity-auctions.ca. Yeah. Pathway to Owning Your Own Home workshop held in Neepawa, a success by Joshua Jackson. And pictured Chief Administrator Officer Colleen Sinchishan is shown speaking during the Pathway to Owning Your Own Home workshop. The town of Neepawa hosted its Pathway to Owning Your Own Home workshop and trade show on November 22nd, with many eager future homeowners coming out to learn more about what it takes to own a home and prepare to purchase a lot in Neepawa's Project 320. The session featured 3 speakers: Terry Burgess, who talked about financial literacies and mortgages, Neepawa's Chief Administrative Officer, Colleen Sinchishan, and Manager of Operations, Jeff Braun, talked about working with the town and planning office. Winnipeg Real Estate Board member Daphne Shepard talked about working with a real estate agent. Minnedosa-based lawyer Elizabeth Sims talked to the crowd about how to work with a lawyer when you're buying your first home. The town did a housing study several years ago and determined Neepawa needs 460 housing units by 2028. The town stepped up with Project 320, which will add 190 single-family residential lots. Economic Development Officer Marilyn Crew said this session was a great way to prepare future homeowners. Having a workshop like this gives them a chance to ask questions and have the professionals right there in front of them. It's Neepawa's next stop to continue growing. Without housing, our population is never going to go further than 5,120, according to Statistics Canada 2021 census. NACTV was on hand to film the sessions, which will be posted to YouTube in case you missed out on the information. Crew noted there is so much more information to share, so they plan to run this workshop again, as well as host other workshops on expanded topics. And low ticket sales forced BPCF to cancel their 30th anniversary gala, by Joshua Jackson. The Beautiful Plains Community Foundation is celebrating 30 years of thriving in the Neepawa area, but was forced to cancel its milestone celebration gala. BPCF Executive Director Melissa Grindham said the gala was cancelled due to a lower than expected level of community interest reflected in insufficient ticket sales. As a charitable organization committed to stewarding donor dollars wisely, the foundation is determined that moving forward would not be in the best interest of the community or the foundation, she noted. The gala was supposed to occur on December 6th at the Yellowhead Centre Hall, featuring catered meal followed by live entertainment from the Bromantics. The decision to cancel the event was not made lightly. The board and events committee considered multiple options and timelines before coming to a unanimous conclusion. The gala was intended to be a celebration of 30 years of generosity, partnerships, and community growth, and canceling such a milestone event was both disappointing and emotionally difficult for everyone involved, said Grindham. Since 1995, the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation has gathered more than $4.2 million in assets through fundraising efforts and donations, which are stored in a bank account. The board, comprised of 11 volunteer members from the community, takes the interest from the saved donations and has been able to give back over $1.8 million, which has been granted to many charitable groups in the Neepawa area. The executive director added that because the foundation had carefully planned and monitored ticket sales, the financial impact of the cancellation is expected to be minimal. At this time, there is no immediate plans for a reschedule of the gala. However, the foundation is exploring alternative ways to recognize this meaningful anniversary and celebrate the contributions that continue to strengthen the Beautiful Plains region. Any further event or initiative will be shaped by the community interest and feedback, she said. The BPCF board thanked those who purchased tickets, volunteered time, or expressed excitement for the event, adding that the public support remains deeply valued by the community foundation. Grindham said that although the gala is cancelled, the foundation work continues every day. Community members can support BPCF through donations, participation in future initiatives, volunteering, or simply by sharing awareness of the foundation's impact. Every act of support strengthens local programs, services, and community growth, she said, adding that BPCF remains profoundly grateful for the trust and generosity of its donors, partners, and residents. While the gala will not proceed, our commitment to rebuilding a stronger, healthier, and more vibrant community is unwavering. And Choral Fest comes to Neepawa. 3 local choirs participated in the Manitoba Choral Association's Choral Fest last week. Scott Lighthead, a clinician from Edmonton, was in Neepawa on November 21st as part of a tour around rural Manitoba to work with choirs of all ages. Participating right here in Neepawa were the Neepawa Middle School Choir, the top photo, the Choraleers, not pictured, and the Neepawa Area Community Choir, above. And Growing Then and Now, 40th Anniversary Wheatland Zone Fall Renewal, by Jean Bocart. On Saturday, October 25th, members from Neepawa and Brandon gathered at Christ Lutheran Church to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Wheatland Lutheran Women's Missionary League, LWML, Canada Inc. Zone Renewal. On October 27, 1985, the Wheatland Zone came into being, separating from the Winnipeg Zone of the Manitoba-Saskatchewan District at the time. At the beginning, we had LWML members from Brandon, McCreary, Neepawa, Plumas, Portage la Prairie, and Verdun. Now we only have active societies in Brandon and Neepawa and an inactive society at Plumas. The morning began with registration at 10, and as ladies were arriving, they were offered tea, coffee, and dainties to enjoy before the meeting started. The business meeting began roughly at 10:30, and President Judy Gabler welcomed everyone to the meeting. Eileen Turner from the Neepawa Society had the opening devotion. It was a wonderful day as there were 3 ladies from Brandon, 10 ladies from Neepawa, 1 guest, and 1 pastor. The business meeting was conducted at noon, and at noon a delicious lunch was served by the Ladies of Christ Lutheran. A beautiful decorated 40th anniversary cake was served to all in attendance. Someone years ago asked, "What does LWML stand for?" And my husband responded, "Lutheran Ladies Make Lunch." Well, we do more than that. Over the years, we have supported various projects with our gatherings and the Women's Crisis Centers in Brandon and Portage, the University Food Bank, both of our seminary guilds, and more. With all business being completed, the afternoon began at 1 with a short anniversary service, followed by a Bible study conducted by Pastor James Foster of Plumas. The Bible study was entitled Growing Then and Now, 2 Peter 3:18. The ingathering was collected for the Seminary Guild of Concordia Lutheran Theological Seminary in St. Catharines, Ontario. Closing devotion was conducted by Brandon Society members. Pastor Vosper closed the afternoon with a prayer of thanksgiving for a wonderful day and safe journey to all driving home. And we move on. We've got the Farmer's Advocate. The sun sets on the 2025 farming season. You can see 2 combines out in the field with the sun setting in the background. This end of harvest scene was captured by Jody Baker Photography. This sunset was seen by many readers as they drove past the harvest fields of western Manitoba. The harvest went well from an operational point of view, and yields were reported to be mostly good. Those interested in purchasing this or other works can learn more by checking out Jody Baker Photography on Facebook or by contacting baker.jody@icloud.com. And Manitoba Beef Producers, an update on livestock services file by Matthew Atkinson. Being not that many months away from the Manitoba Beef Producers annual general meeting in February, I thought it would both reflect upon the big discussion and decision around livestock inspection and give you an update on the progress since our last year's AGM. First of all, I think it's important to say that in no way did we set out with an agenda to create an expansion of livestock inspection services in Manitoba. After hearing a lot of feedback from producers, marketers, and lenders about lack of security around livestock ownership in Manitoba, we set forth to investigate what options were available. At this point, I would really like to acknowledge the great input we received from other Western provinces on how their systems worked, what they were happy with, and what they would change. Follow a numbering of meetings and conversations, the very strong and unanimous feedback we received was that inspection works. It provides value that far exceeds the cost of the service, and it needs to be provincial-wide and mandatory. We also learned that how many cattle in Manitoba in which an inspection fee is already being paid, and with them being inspected after the sale, is made when they are destined to go to one of the Western provinces. Now, that inspection fee may not always be directly seen by the Manitoba seller. However, it is being factored into the sale price. The unfortunate part is it's not bringing value to that Manitoba producer due to the fact there is currently no detailed legislation or regulatory framework over Manitoba-owned cattle should a question about ownership arise. With all the information we had before us, no matter how many different ideas we kept batting around between us, it kept pointing back to the expanded inspection being the only real solution, especially when inspection was already occurring on so many of these western-bound cattle. We also looked long and hard at the designated roles within the RCMP, staff dedicated to investigating livestock-related crimes such as fraud and theft that British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan have. While this reproach is very important and something that we really need in Manitoba, the feedback from the RCMP officers in these roles in all 3 provinces was clear. They cannot do their job without having a livestock inspection service to work with. Additionally, knowing that after many years of delay, the new federal livestock traceability regulations are likely coming into force very soon, we see the value that could be brought by having an inspection service doing a portion of the movement reporting on the producer's behalf. Once MBP's board of directors reached this conclusion, we decided that due to the complex nature of how and why we got there, we felt the need to go beyond regular district meetings and hold some town hall style meetings in some regions less covered by that year's district meetings. At these meetings, producers had a chance to better understand what livestock inspection really means and to voice any concerns. We appreciate everybody who came out and engaged in person, spoke to us for more information, and came out to our February 2025 AGM, where we saw a resolution on livestock inspection carried with a strong majority. As a refresher, that resolution stated as follows: therefore be it resolved to recommend that Manitoba beef producers now ask the Government of Manitoba to work with value chain members to take the necessary steps needed to implement mandatory livestock inspection in Manitoba, including making required legislative and or regulatory changes, working with the prospective delivery agent on a service agreement, determining if funding can be secured to help offset the cost of an expanded inspection system, deciding whether an investment can be made to support the creation of a livestock investigations unit, and any other steps required to move this initiative forward in the most responsive, efficient, and cost-effective manner. Following the AGM, we formed a working group with members of our MBP board, reps from the Manitoba Livestock Marketing Association, producers at large, and, in a non-voting seat, a representative from Manitoba Agriculture. The Manitoba Livestock Inspection Working Group's job is to try and work through establishing expanded inspection services, and therefore it is important we have the diverse industry representation we do have. This consists of commercial, low-calf, purebred, live feedlots, auction marts, and order buyers. The first big task before us has been looking forward to our existing provincial legislation and regulatory framework, and we would like updated versions of these to say when it comes to livestock inspection and key pieces such as demonstrating ownership of cattle. This, of course, is a lengthy and detailed process that is now handed off to the province for drafting of these pieces. As noted, one of the other benefits livestock inspection can provide is movement reporting for the new traceability regulations expected to come into force in the next couple of years. As part of that, it will be necessary to have complete records for livestock being transported, meaning manifests and animal transport records transfer for care. Our goal is establishing mandatory inspection services in Manitoba is at the outset to go directly to a digital platform for inspectors inputting information, rather than face the slow and uphill battles some of other provinces are experiencing as they transition from paper to a digital platform. Our hope is to have a digital manifest platform available for producers to use that would be able to directly input that information, saving a lot of work and expense in the long term. This, of course, is a lot easier and more valuable than a stack of paper records when issues arise and information needs to be looked back upon, such as during an animal disease investigation, or if a suspected case of cattle theft or fraud has arisen. At this point, the exact timeline to move to mandatory inspections is not yet known. As with all legislative or regulatory changes in Manitoba, these will be set up for public comment, and that is something we will see at some point, and feedback can affect those timelines. Regardless of a coming into force date, our hope, if possible, would be a few months of an education and awareness prior to inspection being fully enforced, so that all members of the beef value chain can become aware of what is involved and their respective responsibilities. As always, MBP directors and staff want to hear from you on topics such as livestock inspection, so please feel free to reach out and discuss it more. And let's go Looking Back by Casper Warehan. 125 years ago, McCreary, our town now boasts of a section master in the person of Mr. Dodds of Swan River. The first anniversary of the Methodist Church at Glenburnie was held Monday, November 18th. The Reverend Dr. McLean preached the anniversary sermon, and on Monday evening a tea meeting held which was successful to the highest degree. Mr. David Gardner of Eden has moved into town and intends shortly commencing the manufacture of his threshing machine blower, which has proven such a success in the past. Mr. Gardner expects to have about 200 ready for next year's work and is confident that his machine comes to be better known, the demand therefore will exceed supply. 100 years ago, Glenella Seagulls Limited was broken into last Thursday morning. Several coats were taken and other articles of apparel. Constable Walker traced the culprit and found the goods. The prisoners were taken down to Portage Jail on Sunday. Another step has been taken toward the disposition of the Brookdale telephone exchange, with strong probability that the majority of subscribers will be attached to Neepawa, though some will prefer Carberry, and a few favor Brandon. A petition signed by 50 out of 68 subscribers has been sent to the Commission asking for connection with Neepawa. 75 years ago, high officials of the federal government and civic governments, plus hundreds of friends, gathered Tuesday in Brandon for the funeral rites of James Ewan Matthews, 81, Member of Parliament for Brandon, who died last Friday. Adding to the shock of having learned by radio of the death of their son in canoe trip troop train wrecked before being advised officially by the Department of National Defense, Mr. and Mrs. J.H. Wright and family of 278 2nd Avenue, Tuesday, were advised by Army telegram that it was impossible to identify his remains due to a fire which occurred subsequent to the two-train head-on collision. The family has been holding up well composure their most difficult circumstances, and great numbers of citizens have extended expressions of sympathy and condolence. Promised endowments of wards in the Neepawa District Memorial Hospital have reached encouraging volume. It was reported at the recent meeting of the Hospital Equipment Committee headed by Dr. Paul Cleave, latest organization to endow the Beautiful Plains Agricultural Society, who voted at the recent meeting to furnish a semi-private ward. Photographs remember long after you have forgotten. You still have time to have your baby's photo taken or family group. Photos finished in 2 weeks, time for Christmas mailing. Moorish Studio Phone 34 for an appointment. 50 years ago, 1975, firemen stood by and watched helplessly as flames engulfed the home of Mr. and Mrs. Harry Robinson of Franklin in a blaze that broke out shortly after noon on Saturday. The fire, believed to have started in the area of the electoral service, resulted in an estimated $11,000 in damage, but no injuries reported. The lack of a source of water to refill their equipment left members of the Neepawa Fire Department unable to bring the blaze under control. Instead, they maintained their water supply to preserve the nearby buildings. An evangelical crusade for Christ will be held in Neepawa in November 1976 as part of a campaign to bring the non-churchgoer into the fold of Christianity. Mr. and Mrs. Jim Selman returned home last Wednesday following a 6-week visit with relatives at Stratford-on-Avon, England. While there, the news headline in their paper was, "Wandering Jim comes home after 63 years. He has one brother and one sister living there, and Mrs. Selman has one sister and one brother also." 20 years ago, 2005, major changes are in the offing that will affect the way the town handles economic development with area municipalities. Planning and Economic Development Chairman Terry Volden, who also chairs the Neepawa Area Development Corporation, said the restructured development plan will effectively eliminate NADCO in favor of the Beautiful Plains Community Development Corporation. Currently, Neepawa-based NADCO partners with the RM of Lansdowne and Langford, while Rosedale take part in the Community Works program. It never joined NADCO. Volden said he's hoping that will change when the new plan is put in place. The Neepawa District Disabled Persons Association took delivery of its new 82,000 handy van Tuesday afternoon. The 2004 vehicle, built on a Ford chassis, has seating for 16 plus 2 wheelchairs. McCreary, celebrating a birthday at the drop-in center on November 12th, was Lil Gallagher. Lil turned 85 on November 3rd. Glenella, a new 4-H multi-purpose club, was formed in Glenella in October. Leaders are Marg Allen, Carol Marone, Howard Mackay, Denise Mitchler, Nevin Scott, Yvonne Abstrider, and Marie Heller. Projects include light horse sewing, robo-critters, outdoor living, nature crafts, and beef. And as always, we are NACTV, so the highlight of the week this week is Pathway to Home Ownership, Financial Literacy and Mortgage. And it will be December 5th at 5 p.m. and December 6th at 3 p.m. And don't forget our bingo. Bonanza is over 23,000, Blackout over 13,000. And you can get your bingo packages at NACTV, Touchwood Park, Neepawa Legion, Harris Pharmacy, Frontier Trading in Minnedosa, and the Superstore Lottery Kiosk in Brandon. And that concludes the reading of the Neepawa Banner and Press for Friday, November 28th, 2025. Thanks for watching.